Peter's life had become a series of relentless struggles. He was a car mechanic working tirelessly to make ends meet as a single father to his 14-year-old son, Simon. The wounds of a bitter and draining divorce were still fresh, and it had left Peter emotionally and financially drained. Simon's mother had once been part of their lives, but her addiction to drugs had torn their family apart. She had promised to quit numerous times, but her promises were as empty as her eyes, clouded by the grip of addiction. In the end, everyone had had enough, and Peter was left as the only family Simon had left. One fateful day, Peter was assigned to work on a particularly shabby-looking car that had been towed into his auto repair shop. As he began his routine inspection, he opened the car's dashboard to check the wiring, and his eyes widened in disbelief. There, hidden within the dash, was a stack of crisp $100 bills, amounting to a staggering $20,000. Peter's mind raced with thoughts of what he could do with the money. It wasn't a life-changing fortune, but it was enough to help him get ahead on his overdue mortgage and to finally give Simon the happiness he deserved. It had been far too long since he had seen his son truly smile. Days turned into weeks, and Peter slowly began to spend the money. He took Simon to Disneyland, treating him to rides, cotton candy, and all the joy a 14-year-old's heart could hold. They dined at fancy restaurants, and Peter spoiled his son with gifts, wanting to make up for the painful void left by their family's disintegration. Despite the excitement, a cloud of guilt hovered in the background. Peter knew that taking the money was morally wrong, but he told himself that whoever had left that much cash so recklessly in a car must be involved in some shady business. They didn't deserve the money. 2 months passed, and the majority of the money had already vanished. Peter had spent it on mortgage payments, Disneyland trips, and other expenses that had piled up during his tumultuous divorce. Strangely, he felt no remorse, as he had convinced himself that he had been justified in taking the money. Then one evening, as he left work and climbed into his car, a chill ran down his spine. A shadowy figure sat in the back seat, concealed by darkness. Before Peter could scream or react, the intruder placed a hand over his mouth and handed him a phone. A video played showing Peter removing the money from the car's dashboard. Peter stammered, "How did you get this? Who are you?" The stranger leaned in, revealing a menacing grin. "I knew someone would take the bait. I planted a camera in your car. You've been caught red-handed, my friend." Tears welled up in Peter's eyes as he realized the gravity of the situation. The stranger's voice was low and menacing. "I have your confession on tape. You have 1 week to give me $200,000. If you don't, the police will receive this footage and you'll go to jail." Peter's heart sank. "I can't afford that kind of money, especially after everything I've spent. Please, you don't understand. My son has no one but me. If I go to jail, he'll be left alone." The stranger's eyes remained cold and unfeeling. "Not my problem. You have 1 week." With that, the intruder left Peter's car, leaving him trembling with fear and despair. That night, Peter couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned, racked with guilt and anxiety. His son Simon sensed something was wrong, but couldn't fathom the depths of his father's distress. Peter knew he had to come up with a solution. Desperation led him to the painful decision to sell his house, the only asset he had left. He contacted a real estate agent, hoping to expedite the process. But houses didn't sell overnight. A week passed, and Peter was haunted by the impending deadline. He had tried desperately to sell his house, but the process had taken longer than he had hoped. As he walked to his car one evening, anxiety gnawing at his insides, he couldn't help but dread what was to come. Sure enough, as he settled into his car, the shadowy figure reappeared in the back seat. Peter's voice quivered as he cried, "I don't have the money. The house hasn't sold yet. I'm so sorry." The stranger's response sent a shiver down Peter's spine. "That's fine," he said calmly. Peter was taken aback. "What do you mean, that's fine? Why would you do this? It's not fair." The stranger smiled, his expression chillingly serene. "Fairness is a subjective concept, Peter. I offered you a way out, but you failed to meet the deadline. Now your debt has grown. You have 2 weeks, and if you don't bring me $400,000 by then, the tape goes to the police." Desperation and fear clawed at Peter's heart as the stranger disappeared once again, leaving him to grapple with the weight of his ever-increasing debt and the looming threat of prison. Days turned into weeks, and the pressure mounted. Peter couldn't explain to Simon why their lives were spiraling out of control. The boy had been through enough already, and Peter couldn't bear to see the despair in his son's eyes. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Peter's house sold for $480,000. It was a bittersweet victory, as he had to part with the place where he had built memories with his family. Now he and Simon were left with no choice but to rent, a daunting prospect given their financial situation. With the money from the house sale in hand, Peter prepared to meet the stranger once more. He placed $400,000 in a suitcase, leaving only $80,000 for their uncertain future. The weight of his actions bore down on him as he drove to the designated meeting spot. The stranger appeared as if out of thin air, and Peter handed over the suitcase, defeated and humiliated. He pleaded, "I've paid you everything I had, please, no more games, leave us alone." To Peter's astonishment, the stranger smiled and said, "I have a gift for you." Peter looked bewildered, unable to comprehend the sudden change in demeanor. "What gift? I don't want any more surprises, just let us go." The stranger handed him another suitcase, different from the one Peter had given him. Peter opened it cautiously, revealing a fortune of cash inside. He couldn't believe his eyes. There was $1.5 million within. The stranger's smile remained enigmatic. "This was all an experiment, Peter. I'm a billionaire, and I wanted to see how far someone would go when pushed to their limits. You don't have to repay me, but I hope you've learned a valuable lesson. Don't take what isn't yours and appreciate the life you have." With those cryptic words, the stranger disappeared into the shadows, leaving Peter in a state of shock and reflection. Peter's life had taken a dramatic turn, from the depths of desperation to an unexpected windfall. He realized that the money he had taken had come at a high price, one that had tested his morals and pushed him to the brink. With the newfound wealth, he resolved to rebuild his life with honesty and integrity. He invested in Simon's future, ensuring he received the education and support he deserved. As he watched Simon smile and thrive once more, Peter knew that the lesson learned from the stranger's experiment would guide him on a path of redemption and gratitude for the rest of his life.